Hey guys, welcome back to another blog video here. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, as always, here on Voice of the Rings. I hope you're having a great and wonderful day in Middle-earth, wherever you are. I'm going to give you a couple fun little updates here. I'm going to talk about a couple different things. I am going to answer a few questions that you guys dropped in the Discord. I will do that at the end of this video. But I want to talk about a couple different subjects. One of them is kind of like I haven't done a lot of videos in the last couple of weeks. I've done a lot of streams. I haven't done a lot of videos. Well, I have been recovering a little bit from a sinus infection. I had it for like 3 weeks. I didn't really realize the first week or two that I had something, and then it kind of like dawned on me that I did, because I had like really low energy, and that's not usually the case for Zollin Ironshield. So that is one reason I haven't been able to make a lot of videos as of late. I'm going to be doing a lot more very soon. We have a lot of very exciting things coming for the channel. The new expansion, right, is coming out in November, very soon. At the time of this video is end of October. We are going to be getting the Return to Moria expansion. That's going to be very cool. We will be fully covering that on this channel. And then also in December, we'll be getting the new level cap and huge expansion, Kingdoms of Harad, for LOTR. And that is going to be covering all, I will be doing tons of stuff on that for months after that comes out. But we'll do a lot of fun first time things, checking out the new region, doing stuff with Kinship, doing stuff, I'll give you guys views. I'll try to do guides once I learn as quick as I can. I'll get guides out for you on certain subjects and things. A lot of cool stuff there. And the Durin's Folk is the expansion for the Return to Moria game, by the way, the name. Very exciting. Both are going to be really, really cool on this channel. You guys know me. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I really like to keep it positive. My goal here on this channel is that you're having fun and I'm having fun. And if I can make it where you can come and watch a video and one of my regular LOTR voiceover tales, which I plan to do more of very soon, you'll see those soon. And my goal is, when you guys come to this channel, is that I want you to enjoy yourselves. I want you to have a nice break and be able to just do some Lord of the Rings content. And if I can make you a little happier that day or get a smile on your face or a laugh, I feel like I succeeded. All right. So that's kind of like what I consider what I enjoy doing. And I consider that like my job. That's my goal. I'm trying to make fun content for you guys, right? That's always my goal on this channel. As things are going, my biggest thing is I really, expectations, right? That's something like you put on yourself and then other people put on you and all that kind of stuff happens. But one of my goals I'm really going to try to do on this channel is that I'm always going to be authentic. It's all on Ironshield. I'm not going to lie to you guys about things. If there's something I don't like to discuss or talk about on the channel, I'm just not going to talk about it, right? We're sticking to Lord of the Rings topics. I really am going to try my very best to always be that way. I'm not perfect. No one is. But I will do my best. That's the goal of the channel. It's supposed to be a fun Lord of the Rings based channel. That'll always be kind of like my goal, my big goal, overarching goal. Now, under that, there's many other things, of course. And that's always the challenge, right? Of balancing things. And, oh, look, this new game's out, this new content. Right? The Rise to War phone game. It's dying, right? It's going to be gone in December, right at the beginning. But the blessing is here on this channel for Lord of the Rings is that we still have we have wonderful stuff coming out for Lord of the Rings games when it comes to LOTR and Return to Moria, and that's going to be very exciting. Again, I reach out to all my viewers who are Return to Moria viewers. Sorry, not Return to Moria, excuse me. Them too, watching. But my Rise to War, the phone game viewers and subscribers, if you guys want to come check out LOTR, I might end up doing like a little stream where I'm like, hey, I'm going to show you some other Lord of the Rings games, to kind of help you out. I know a lot of you are into phone games, so it's not really something you can't just jump into an MMO. I get that, okay? I know a couple of you have, and that's really cool, and I'm glad you guys are checking it out. But I understand that MMOs take up a lot more time than a phone game where you can flip it on lunch break. You know what I mean? They're different. They're very different genres. But still, I really want, put out that hand for you guys. I want you, it's a little bit always disappointing for a community like that Rise to War phone game, when like a game just dies like that, right? Now, on a positive note for my other game communities, we are a community of Voice of the Rings, right? My channel. I'm trying to make this a fun Lord of the Rings based community. That's always been my goal since the very beginning. And again, it's my community, right? It's my channel. But my goal is to welcome many who could want to do Lord of the Rings content of different video games, lore, replica reviews, even like that, the medallions for the Conqueror's Challenge, which I've covered on the channel, all that kind of stuff. That's the goal. I want it to be a fun Lord of the Rings space led by Zollin Ironshield, right? Or your Voice of the Rings. So pretty much that's where I've been going on stuff. Again, I've just been a little tired the last 3 weeks. That's why there hasn't been nearly as many videos as I like to make. For a while, I was doing like 1 video a day. I'd love to get close to that again. I think that might have been a little excessive. I think I burnt myself out a little bit. So I'm going to do my best to try to get out like maybe 2 or 3 videos a week. And then we'll still do a live stream or 2 on the weekends like usual. I've been pretty consistent with doing 2 and 3 live streams every weekend on stuff like that. And we're going to also, we'll hit up some other subjects of other Lord of the Rings games for live streams as well. But anyway, I think a lot of you have had a great time seeing the Kinship stuff, I assume. Leave your comments, what do you like, and everything. But I really enjoy doing that. The Kinship has been great. I feel very blessed with a very cool Kinship on the server Glamdring in Lotro. They are awesome people, and it's been really a blast. One thing so back to what I was saying about my goals as a channel as a whole, right, for bringing you guys really fun content, is my goal is, again, to always be authentic and what I want to do, right, what I want to make. I tend to sometimes be hard on myself and like, oh, I could do that better, so I shouldn't do it yet and it's like, I don't want to, it's that like procrastinating thing. I'm not really a person that procrastinates, but I'm a person who like wants it to be really good. So I feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't just jump the gun and just do it because then it won't be as quality as I would like, right? Well, realistically, you guys probably laugh because you're like, Zollin, that video you made was quality. You should have just made it sooner. You could have, right? So that's the kind of stuff that goes through my head all the time as for you, as my viewers. I'm always trying to make the best content. So again, it's been a little hard the last couple weeks because I feel like that happens sometimes. Sometimes people will leave comments. I'm really learning, right? As someone learning in this space, as someone who I'm easily can put myself in other people's shoes, and I easily am like, is empathetic the word? I don't know. I really can relate to other people really, really well. And sometimes because of that, I assume that everyone else does that too. And as someone online, and you all know when you're on the internet, right? You're never going to be able to please everybody, right? You're never going to be able to do that. And again, everyone knows this. I've always known this, but it's hard. It's like you subconsciously don't realize it still, even though you know that's going to happen, right? And you're going to get comments like, oh, you could have done this better, blah, 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 blah. And I'm realizing that is not even 99% of my community. Most of you guys are really awesome. I feel really blessed. In fact, some of my friends told me the other day, they're like, man, your community is like so nice. Who are these people? Which I appreciate, you guys. But again, it's the internet. You're still going to get people who are going to say stuff. And I tend to be someone who's trying so hard myself to make really good content for you guys. And that I almost take things hard. Criticism, right? And also, I really appreciate you guys' compliments. Like, that means a lot, too. I don't get overly prideful about it, but I appreciate those compliments. It means a lot. But I'm working really, really hard to try to make the content really good. And then sometimes, even when I know, like, oh, that, that person, they're full of it. They're not even someone who normally watches my channel, right? Things like that. My subconscious, like, tries to figure out, like, well, could I done, blah, blah, blah. And I'm realizing, as I'm doing this channel, and as I'm maturing as a content creator, that's never going to be able to, you're never going to be able to hit that cue. You're not going to get every single person happy. That's the same thing, by the way, for my Kinship in Lotro. We are a very big, wonderful Kinship, and we cover many things, and we have a massive amount of wonderful players, great leaders. That's awesome. But it's funny because me and my leaders have found there's been a few people who have joined our Kinship that no matter what we did to help them, they were not happy. We had someone who joined a long time ago, won't mention names, and they were like, oh, no one's helping me. And we're like, oh, okay. Because first we were like, oh, here's this info on Discord. People were answering his questions. I was giving him my guide videos and explaining stuff to him. And then I actually did some one-on-one time with that person in the game and played with them and showed them stuff in game and talked to them on Discord. And then a couple of my other leaders did too. And like, we really like, oh, you should come to this event. And we have a bunch of events on our Kinship, right? Which again, you should check that out on our Discord if you'd like to join us and play with us. We have a lot of different things. We cover brand new players to veteran players, just so everyone knows. But anyway, back to my main point is that at the end of it all, he starts saying again that no one's helping him. And at this point, we're thinking, is he pulling our leg? Right? That's literally what I'm thinking. That's what the leaders are thinking. We're like, is this guy pulling our leg? But we think he was serious. And then after a couple more days, after all that work and effort we put in, he left the Kinship, disappeared, and we never talked to him again. So what that taught me is, for one, you need to judge every person on their own merit. So for one, I'm never going to be like taking that as an example as because it's a very one-off example and judging everybody on that, because that would be stupid, right? But it does mean you should be a little bit, me as a content creator talking to myself here, should be more like, know that could happen, right? So I'm trying to learn to balance being really helpful and being engaged with the community, but at the same time not overly fixating on like one person that I don't really know well, right? To help, because it's the internet and I don't know people. People have different personalities, different thoughts on things, it just goes on and on and on and on, right? But again, our community as a whole is pretty darn amazing. So again, that story was to tell you, all right? The reason I'm telling my whole community this story is to tell you that me as a content creator, I'm learning how to realize that, like, I'll let that one roll off the back, right? like a duck in water, right? Like, just, that's a stupid comment. Moving on. And if it's a rude or insulting comment, I usually get rid of it, because the bottom line is my space. It's my channel, my Discord, my Kinship, right? But it's also your guys' Kinship if you're in the Kinship. It's also your guys' community if you're in the Discord. But again, I have to facilitate, as the leader of it, a fun area to chat, right? That's like my goal. So anyway, with that all out of the way, I just thought that was an important subject to cover, and I felt like it's something I could say publicly to all of you guys. But again, I want to always be really authentic, really real. I don't want to ever lie to you guys about things. So if it's something I don't want to talk about, I'm just not going to talk about it. All right? On the channel, especially if it's like some world affair. You guys already know. I'm going to talk about something in a second, but you already know I don't do politics on this channel at all. So we're not ever really getting into that for many reasons. And I'd like to cover that real quick, my reasoning why. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to tell you the reasoning why. Okay? If you want to skip it right here, I'll do a little link to where I answer the questions for if you want to skip. But again, I'm not going to say anything that'll be annoying, so you guys should be good. Oh, and also, so if you are, when your brain just completely blanks out, I had such a good roll going for you guys, right? Didn't I? And then just, there it goes. But again, I want to always be authentic and real with you guys. At the same time, obviously, it's the open internet, so I'm going to keep some things private, right? Some family things and things about, you know, my age and things like that. I just don't say that. You guys can know my birthday's December 30th, but we dwarves keep our birth years secret. And again, I take it as a compliment when people think I'm younger or older. So whether people guess or whatever, that's fine. But just know if you guess, I'm not going to always answer. But yeah, I really appreciate it. So another thing I wanted to talk about is that I've seen a lot in our conversations, and this is where if you want to skip, you can. But I really am going to keep this no politics, okay? Just why I have the rules in Discord and also just in the community in general, in the Kinship, on things like no politics, right? Obviously, 99% of you are like, duh, we know why, Zollin. I get it, but let me just go through the reasoning just a little bit here, okay? Now, there's two things. I have no politics, and we also have tagged on there with no religious talk on stuff. Now, you guys will all know, let's jump to the religion one for a second real quick first here. You guys will all know I am definitely not ashamed to say that my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and that I'm Christian. I've said that to you guys before. I've also made it very, very clear that I'm not going to shove that down your throats on this channel, okay? It is a very big part of my life. It is my being, right? Since I consider him my Lord and Savior, my God. That's a lot to me. That means a lot to me. So whenever I talk about it, or if I do like a Christmas video or something like that, the reason I'm talking about it is because I care about you guys as a community and I want to share that, right? Because the whole point of, the original story, right? That why Jesus died on the cross for you is, it's a free gift that you can accept, right? And again, I understand some people have had very bad, probably, interactions with other Christians. And one of the reasons why I don't really want to have a lot of conversation about that in the Discord and stuff is because I don't want to have to be in charge of moderating it. Does that make sense? Because if I knew everybody in the internet and our community could agree to disagree on things and just have good conversations, good faith conversations and blah, 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 that would be fine. But the problem is it always breaks down into fighting. We all know this, right? There's even disagreements between different sects of Christianity, right? So the point is, there is something else that I've always talked about since the beginning of my channel. I've always talked about no politics, and I don't even hint at things because we're not doing that. I do my very best not to even with that idea. And by the way, I have my opinions and thoughts on things, but it's not what we're here to do. We're here to have fun, relax, play Lord of the Rings. That's the goal. That's what I want to have as a fun community. I don't want things to start degrading into battles and, oh, this person likes this person likes that person, or they hear this one thing and then they assume all these opinions of this person and put them in a box. That drives me crazy. All right. It's the same thing with kind of the age thing. Why I don't say my age is people tend to hear an age and naturally put you in a box. Oh, well, they must be this age. They must think this and that. I have friends that are super, super young my oldest friend that I know of that I talk with all the time, who's one of my best friends, she's 95 years old, okay? One of my other good friends, she was 87. She passed away 2 years ago. That was really hard. But, I have friends of all ages. I've never had an issue with age. I know that some, this is no insult, but some people really like to hang out and be friends with people their age. That's natural. I have friends that are my age, obviously. But the point is, I've always been able to put myself in everyone's shoes. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I just feel like I'm pretty good at that, right? I can just relate to people. Even though I haven't really felt their experiences, I can hear their experiences, and I can imagine it really easily. So, but I really enjoy, talking to all different ages. Our kinship has all different ages in it. This channel, this community, we have all different ages. We have people who watch the channel who are not even high school yet, all the way up through high school, college, every age, right? I know we have a couple people who watch, they're like 85 years old. So I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate that you watch the channel, that you enjoy yourselves. That's the goal, right? My leaders of my kinship were all different ages, right? That's really cool. I think that should be more of a thing we should try to cultivate as a culture anyway, to have friendships at all ages, because age is kind of an illusion, right? It's there's obviously some practical reasons for ages, right? Friends that you like, a friend that your age, they have similar experiences because you're at the same age, right? So maybe you're easier when you're younger to relate to your high school friend, right? But anyway, I'm getting off a little too much of a tangent there. So back to my main point is that on this channel, I have always said since the beginning I started this channel is that I don't really want there to be battles over things with our Discord and stuff, but the only real rule I ever directly made at the beginning of this channel was no politics. That was the big one. Now, the reason why the religion one is in there for the Discord, again, I have my views on things in life. And, normally I'd love to just let people talk about things, but unfortunately, a lot of times it gets tied in because politics has worked its way into everything in our lives, which gets really annoying, which is why I try really hard to keep this just Lord of the Rings, right? Even, you heard me when I got frustrated at things with Amazon's Strings of Power, okay? They leaked a few things in there, but it wasn't too bad, but, well, it was, Okay, moving on. But the goal is, I really would like it if I didn't have to do the one with religion at all. But the bottom line is there's a lot of different religions in the world. There's a lot of different views on things. Again, there's a lot of different sects, even between Christianity, and I just don't want it to turn into this, I'm not here to I'm always happy to talk about Jesus directly one-on-one with one of you, if one of you want to ask me. If you talk to me about politics one-on-one, I'm going to shut you down and say, sorry, don't do that. But if you want to message me on Discord and talk to me one-on-one, I will answer some of your questions. But I'm not here to I didn't make this channel to I would have done a Bible channel if I had done that, right? I'm not here to preach, right? So I'm here to encourage you guys and make you happy and have a good day and do some Lord of the Rings content. That's my goal, right? On that. And again, I am very involved with my church. I am very involved with, I'm the kind of guy that just every subject. And I really even when it comes to more the political realm, I have friends of all backgrounds and views. And I can easily talk to many of them and agree to disagree on things and have a good conversation. That's fine, and we walk away and we're still friends and we move on. But that's really hard in this day and age. That just doesn't really happen, especially in people you just met, right? It just doesn't really happen anymore. And I wish it wasn't like that, personally. I wish that people could just have conversations, but it just seems like people get so pitted against each other. And I understand that people can have like, you can be set in different mindsets, right? And you can have different where you come from with your thinking. I get that. And I do my best to put myself in people's shoes to kind of see where they're coming from when it comes to viewpoints in life or anything really. But it can still get to the point where it's like battles can open and take place. And I do not want to have to be the one, in Discord or my leadership or my mods in Discord to have to deal with that. Right? I don't want them to have to deal with that. So that's my reasoning behind that. So last thing, just to be very clear, is that I made it very, very clear at the beginning of my channel that even though I put the rule in the Discord and stuff, let's not talk about religion stuff, I made it very clear that rule does not apply to me with my Christmas videos and a couple things, or if I want to say a blog thing like this. It is my channel. So I'm not breaking any rule because I made that very clear at the beginning of my channel. So, but the bottom line is too, another thing I think that is important is that we want to be really like, as a community, this is my goal. I want us to be really accepting, right? And really open and happy for everyone to join us no matter what. But if there's someone that like gets like, that can't, we need to learn in our culture to have a good balance, to be like accepting and open-minded, but also at the same time not get so easily, I guess the word, I don't like this word very much, but like offended, right? Or frustrated at someone, or like, how dare they not think exactly the same way I do? I think that we need to learn to like not be so fixated on that as a group of, as a group. Even if it's just us video gamers, okay? Just us video gamers. Forget what country we're from, what, anything. Just us video gamers in general. I think people just need to be a little bit more chill. Now, there are limits to that, obviously. If somebody is supporting some radical like group, right? Like the N name, right? Or any other group, and there are groups on all sides. That's obviously a no-no. There's obviously a limitation on that, things like that. That's kind of like common sense. I think 99% of everyone understands that. But the thing is, too, there are some people that will think certain groups are like really, really bad, and really they're not. And that's where it comes into like personal view and point. And again, I'm not even going to mention groups because I don't even want to, because that'll hint at things, and I don't want to do that more than what I just said. But the bottom line is, if someone like says, oh, I don't think I like this tree very much, and then someone else is like, what do you mean I love that tree? Right? And then they get really mad and start fighting about it. I think people need to realize that if you like that tree and the other guy doesn't like that tree, him not liking that tree does not affect your thought on liking the tree. And I think that that's where people, and I'm learning this too myself, that's where we need to be like, be confident in our own views. Just be like, okay, well, whatever. Right? Now, obviously I'm talking about moderate things here, like more middle ground issues. There's obviously extremes, right? But that's something that I've just noticed in our culture, that it's like, I really want to try to keep away from in this channel. I don't want to have to deal with that, right? So that's one of the biggest reasons why we don't have the no political talk, right? That's like my biggest thing. That's the one that really matters to me. But again, some people would say this. There are some times that happens where the religion talk gets mixed in with political, because political is just kind of like gone into everything, and it really shouldn't. It really shouldn't. That should not happen. And that's a little frustrating to me sometimes, because again, I'd love it if I could just let that be like, let people talk about everything, whatever. And again, I'm not in any position where I'm like, if two people in our Discord want to have a private conversation, not on a public channel about God or something, go for it. I'm not here to like control you in that way. I really do. I'm someone that really cares about freedom of speech. Absolutely. But again, it is my Discord. It's my Kinship. It's my channel. And so it is kind of like my space that I'm moderating, right? So that's why we have those basic rules in Discord. So I hope that kind of makes sense for some of you. I know some people have asked me. I've had like 6 or 7 people actually talk to me about this in the last like 5 months. And I thought it'd probably be important just to tell you all as a community my thoughts on that. And again, please don't start asking me like, what do you mean by what groups, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to answer that because the bottom line is I don't want anyone, if anyone even gets the hint of like what some of my views are on one thing, right? If it came to politics or something, then suddenly people are all going to put me in a box. They're going to think, oh, if he thinks this one thing on this one subject, then he must think all of these things. It just drives me crazy. I just wish people wouldn't do that. I just don't do that, right? I'm trying to think of a basic example that wouldn't be an issue. I think here's one. I think something with environmental, protection is good. I think clean water, clean air, having clean stuff on the ground so you're not ruining plant stuff like that. I'm really someone who really likes that kind of stuff. But I'm also someone who's not more on the extreme side where I think it should be hurting humans in the process to fix things. So it needs to have a balance, right? But again, I say something like that and immediately people are probably going, oh, well, let's put them in a box, That's natural, okay, guys? It's natural. We do that as humans, all right? But just because I have that opinion, I will tell you right now, I probably have extremely different opinions on different subjects, okay? Because as humans, we have very complex minds, right? And we have many different thoughts, and our experiences, our decisions, our choices, right? Our what we watch, who we listen to, that all influences that. Which is why I always recommend, if you're someone that gets stressed out a lot, from maybe like the news or anything with that, I recommend to you guys, just make a rule to yourself that I won't watch anything with the news but once a week, or just not at all, but just do your best. Don't do, don't check your emails before you go to bed. There's no point, because you won't be able to fix the problem before bed anyway with most situations, right? If it's something for like a workplace you go to the next day, right? You might as well check in the morning, right? You don't need to stress all night while you sleep. So those are things that I think are really important for you to be happy. And guess what? If you're not watching the news stuff, you can watch more of my videos. You see that plug in there? You like that? So I'm just kidding. Or watch something more positive and happy and what you want to enjoy, right? Your time. I think this is really, really important to keep in mind. So anyway, with that, I think I've covered that pretty extensively. I just really wanted to talk about that a little bit because I felt like it was important. I felt like, it's just like, I don't want people to think, oh, Zollin, you have the rule that, you have a no religion talk, and yet you do a Christmas video and you talk about Jesus as your Lord and Savior. Well, again, this is my platform, for one, right? And some people are like, well, that's not fair. Well, it's fair. And you all know me. If you know me and you've known me for a long time, I'm a very fair person. I try to be extremely fair on things. I give people too many chances sometimes, which I'm learning to give a moderate amount of chances to people, like some random person joins Discord and stuff like that. But I will handle things too. So if you ever have problems in our Discord, you can talk to me or a leader, and I will handle something. And I have. There's been about 4 things in the last month. And that's an extra amount of stress for me and work for me, but I'm going to do it because my goal is to make it a fun community for you guys. So that's a whole extra layer of stuff that's not part of basically my job to do that. But also I care about you guys as a community. So I'm like, I got to make sure the Discord's moving smoothly and our kinship's happy. And here on the channel, you guys are happy, right? That kind of stuff. So anyway, I just recommend all that stuff. But again, the thing with, I'm learning to not let expectations of other people dictate how I do stuff on my channel, right? It's really important. I've heard many other really big content creators explain that you have to just do what you want to do on things and subjects. And here's the thing too. I know that many of you respect my channel, respect me for that. I appreciate it. Even some of you who I know do not agree with Christian stuff at all, you guys have been very respectful, and you've told me very nice things that, we're proud of you, that you, speak your mind and stuff like that. I appreciate that a lot. And I appreciate that you guys say that, right? That's really, really very nice of you. But again, that is my goal. So even though my goal is, right? My goal is to keep the channel very Lord of the Rings centric, and fun and free of politics, which is always going to be my goal. And really, main reason I don't have in the Discord I have the don't talk about religion is because of things tie to things and start up things and battle happens and people have slightly different opinions on something, and then it just turns into a huge thing where really we should just be talking about lore of Lord of the Rings or LOTR or Return to Moria, right? Like, that's what we should be doing. It's a Return to Moria. There's lots of other spaces that you can do that, right? And again, if you're someone who really wants to ask me a question about my beliefs in God, you can directly message me. I always tell people that on Discord. You can do that. That's totally fine. Don't talk to me about politics because I'll shut you down. I'm like, nope. So again, I'm very open though on that because again, politics is it's fleeting. But my views on God is part of me. That's really, really important to me. As a person, and it's going to come out a little bit into my content creation, obviously. But again, I really respect everyone who comes on this channel. I respect all you guys, no matter your beliefs in life. I'm glad you're here, right? I really appreciate the support. It's been amazing. The channel has been growing. My patrons have been growing. You guys are the best. I can't thank you enough for that. It's just been really, really amazing with all that. So anyway, just so I make again, I know I've reiterated like 4 times, but my goal, my point is I'm going to do my best. I won't shove stuff on you with my views in life about God, but things will still come out sometimes, and I still want to do like Christmas video and things like that. And if there's someone who gets so frustrated at me for that and they leave or something, that's on them, right? The 99.9% of you are not going to do that, right? So I think that if we just learn as a community in general here on Voice of the Rings and just in the world would be nice, learn to like, if you like someone and what they make with videos and they have a slightly opinion you don't like about some other subject, maybe just ignore it, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe just ignore it, right? You know, things like that. And again, it's not like I'm planning on making every one of my LOTR tales have part of a Bible study in it now. That's not what I'm planning on doing, okay? All right, I already teach something in my church. I don't I don't do it here on the channel. But I will answer questions if people have them directly to me. So anyway, with that out of the way, I've said 3 times, which means moving on to the next subject. There it is again. Got to stop doing that. I don't like using the word it's annoying to me when I watch my own videos later, so I try to do it. I always try to make my goal of my channel stuff you guys will enjoy. And if I watch later, I usually watch a little bit. I'll watch my own video and check it out. I'm probably my worst critic. But if I notice something that's bothering me that I'm doing over and over, like one thing is like, you know, that like you get like one of those little burps when you're talking. I hate it when I do that. I watch them like, argh. So I try not to do that. It just means I have to take a deep breath sometimes, let it out when I'm talking. That's really where it comes from. It just talking too quickly. There's the again. I'm trying my best not to ever talk too quickly for you guys. When I first started the channel, I was talking very, very quickly all the time. And it was just like, you know, there wasn't a lot of breath happening in some of my first videos. And I didn't like that when I watched it later. I was like, okay, I got to calm down the speed at which I'm talking here. But I'm not talking too slowly, because too slowly is also annoying. So I try to find a good balance best I can. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I used to have my 2 friends in college, and they're like, you sound like a radio announcer. You should do a radio channel. I'm like, oh really? Well, that's a compliment. Thank you. And then I started a YouTube channel a year later. Who would have guessed? But so yeah. Let's move on to the next subject now. I think what I would like to talk about is something else that is important. It's been a lot. I've had a lot of personal stuff going on in my life, and then also I've had the sinus infection, and I've just felt a little bit overwhelmed, and I've been like, man, I really want to make more videos for everyone. And it's been like really like kind of intense, right, the last few weeks, and there's just a lot of stuff that's happened, and again, there are some things I had to take care of in the Discord, which again had a lot of high stress for me. Because I care about everybody. So I'm like, it's hard to have to make really hard decisions sometimes, but that's kind of what like is thrusted onto you if you're the leader, which I guess I am now, right? Of the Kinship, obviously, and then of the Discord. And that's a challenge sometimes in life. It's a challenge because it's like I didn't really ask to be that, but it kind of became that, right? So that is always a little bit of a challenge because I'm trying my best to be fair-minded, especially if it's someone, you know, I've known a long time versus a brand new person that came to Discord, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, so you have to learn how to balance things and stuff like that. So I'm doing my best on that. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot the last few weeks. And I'm a really, you know, glass half full positive kind of guy. There's a lot of good stuff happening too in the last 2 weeks. I've had a lot of fun. Duran's Day event was awesome. It's the longest stream I've done on the channel. But, you know, I just was like feeling a little bit stressed, like a little bit tired. And I was like, man, you know, I just got to keep going. And then, you know, personally, again, just mention this for people who care, but, you know, I just kind of prayed about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going because I want to make good content for you guys, right? And then I got a very large encouragement thing. For one, I have to thank my, someone in LOTR sent me hope tokens and some scrolls. It's very nice. Just a little thing. I was like, oh, that was nice, right? You know, that was a nice little gift they sent me in LOTR. And then I'm checking, I check my Patreon, and someone has joined the Patreon as a Hero of Khazad-dûm level. I know you've never heard that yet. That's my big level. Okay? I thought it was a mistake. I thought the numbers were a mistake, right? When I saw my like thing for Patreon, I'm like, that doesn't look right. That's way too, why is that so much? And then I saw someone joined with that. And then someone else joined Iron Guard again. So that was really encouraging to me. So it really made me like, okay, people care about what I'm making enough to support because I do this full time, my work. I got to go make more videos. And it really encouraged me. And again, I got some really nice comments recently from some of you guys, some in Discord, some in my YouTube community channel. And it was just really encouraging to me. So I really appreciate that. I'm someone that, like, even when there's like lulls and it's like things feel a little hard or you're sick or something in the moment, I'm like, I want to just persevere through it and I keep going. I don't like to be flip-floppy and stop something or flip something. I hate that kind of stuff. I want to be always here as a content creator, something fun you guys can look forward to. But again, I wouldn't be able to do that if you guys weren't watching these videos, liking, sharing, all the free stuff, right? Leaving comments. That all helps so much. By the way, there's a little glitch right now on YouTube. If you click like on the video and then you put it in full screen, they added a new like and dislike button on the full screen mode. And the like button, which should be right around here if you're full screen right now, this one, it doesn't fill in when you have it liked. So if you hover it right now and you just like this video underneath, plug in, like the video, yeah. That button does not light up. So if you click the one here thinking, oh, it's not filled in, it's not liked, it will unlike the video. So be careful, double check. They need to fix that really quick. That's a weird glitch. But anyway. So anyway, let me just bring that up. So thank you so much, Martin, for being a Hero of Khazad-dûm. By the way, there's a cool little perk with this. I'm going to make a cool dwarven written letter with my quill once he talks to me, once I get hold of him. And I'll make that into a video. So that'll be fun. I can explain that when I make the video. And then again, Randor and Reb and everybody else for being my wonderful patrons. And again, we have a new Iron Guard Patreon there. Appreciate it. Very nice. Thank you, Belwyn. So yeah, it's I really appreciate that. That was a really cool surprise. It definitely encouraged me. Your guys' comments always encourage me too. And again, liking, subscribing, all that free stuff, that encourages me. It makes me realize, okay, I'm working on this stuff and they are liking it. And it's very easy. I know this is something I didn't realize until I was a content creator, how much time and effort goes into things, even like the video I'm making right now, how much extra time and editing and recording and all this other stuff that happens with the video. You say, oh, well, I only saw a 30-minute video from this guy this whole week. And it's like, well, he might have put in 5 hours to that one video, right? And then had other things. But now I try to do this full time. So that's why I put in how many hours of streaming this last week? 20 hours of streaming. I did a 9-hour stream, a 3-hour stream, 2-hour stream, and then in the next weekend I did a 2 and 3 and a 4. So anyway, which I really love doing, but you really have to commit to that time. You have to be there 30 minutes early. You have to be, all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, so anyway, that was really encouraging. So I appreciate all that. thank you guys for listening to this spiel and this video. I hope this was a good video. I know it wasn't quite my normal video. Have a couple deeper subjects in this video today. Again, I do not plan on doing these all the time, so don't worry that I'm going to suddenly start doing videos that are like deep about this stuff all the time. I'm not planning on doing that, so don't even worry about that. That's not an issue there. This is like something I do maybe every couple months, if that. So what I would like to do real quick is answer some questions from you guys from the Discord. All right, so I'm going to bring it up. We are going to talk about these questions. So I have a section in Discord, if you join us, down there in the description. You just go to voiceoftherings.com, my social medias, a tab, and the link is down there, and you will have all the options. Join the one that says main Voice of the Rings Discord. Do not join the one that says the Glamdring Alliance. That is for leaders only and content creators, just for a communication hub that I made for them. All right, leaders of LOTR, like Kinship leaders. All right, let's see here. Where is the questions? There it is. So this is a fireside chat. Normally I would have like a fire sound effect on, but I just wanted to talk, so I just turned it on. I mean, the computer is basically a fire. It's like a furnace below me anyway, right? So I need a little bit of a haircut. My hair's kind of like going frizzly because all this heat. It gets warm in here real quick when I don't have the AC on. All right, so let me run through and see if I can get through some of these questions here. Robert of Carlindulin of Moria has left quite a few questions. Actually, I think quite a few people have left questions since I last did one of these. Fireside chat. All right, I think we're going to start the questions here. Last one was on May 26th. Someone left a question, and this is, though, again from Robert. He said, is it true that Tom Bombadil was so powerful that even the Dark Lord Sauron was afraid of Tom? What specific ability did he have? Why didn't he help the Fellowship destroy the ring? Were there others like Tom Bombadil? If not, what happened to this mysterious race of beings? Okay, there's a lot of questions. He's got like 6 questions tied up into that. That's a pretty nicely condensed question there into 6. Let's start with the last one. Is there other of the races? Where did they go? No. Tom Bombadil is a one of a kind. He's not really even like a race, because usually a race of creatures would imply there's more than one, that they like reproduce and there's other ones, right, in some way. So no, he was with the world. So my there's a bunch of like theories, right? Nerd of the Rings had a great video on the theories of Tom Bombadil. But I think my favorite one personally is the theory that Tom Bombadil is like the sentient part of the planet. When the planet was made with the music of the Ainur, Tom Bombadil was like the sentient or conscious manifestation of that music. So like the planet was made, and then there was like so much power that Tom Bombadil appeared with it. So he was just there at the beginning of the creation of the world. And he just lives in the world happily and sings his songs. That's why he's always happy and he's always singing, because he's like the embodiment of the Ainur's song. I like that theory the best. Personally, there's other ones. There's one that's like Tolkien. Tolkien debunked that himself in a letter, so I'm going to take that one out. I like that one the best. I think Tom Bombadil purposely left him there as kind of an unknown to make it fun for us, because I think that's why Tolkien was such a good writer. He gave us so much detail on some things, and other things he purposely left in the air because he knew that would ruin the story to make that too concrete, let people just use their imaginations. So that's pretty cool. So there was no others like Tom Bombadil. That answers that question. Why didn't he help the Fellowship destroy the ring? Tom Bombadil, again, was someone who was singing all the time, happy with the world. He was not some kind of like mentor. He wasn't like someone who was like a powerful being that would help watch over the world. He did watch over the Old Forest. He did save the hobbits from the Barrow Downs because it was in kind of his realm, his area near him. But he was... Gandalf and Glorfindel and Elrond talk about it in the book. Basically, one of them mentions, what if we gave the ring to Tom? It didn't seem to affect him at all, and he could hold it and keep it from Sauron because he's so strong or whatever. And Gandalf was basically like, well, he'll lose it. He'll just drop it somewhere and lose it. And that would be bad. because he just doesn't care. And it's not that he doesn't care about the world and people. He clearly saves the hobbits, right? Probably by the will of LOTR, right? But, you know, it just happens to be he came and saved him. But Tom he doesn't care about the worries of the world. He just cares about his forest and his wonderful wife, right? Goldberry. And that's all he cares about. And he's happy to be in the river and sing and be happy and joyous. I think that's kind of the idea that Tolkien was trying to put forth. Now, again, he's a very complex creature. You can do like a whole like theology on Tom Bombadil, but hopefully that kind of answers the question. What specific abilities did he have? That's thrown up in the air. Tolkien never really tells us what specific abilities he had. Clearly he had no. So either this is why I like the idea that he's part of the world, and that he's like the sentient part of the Ainur song when he created the world. When he gets the ring and has no issue, and he does a magic trick and makes it disappear and hands it back to Frodo with no issue. The thing with the ring, why the ring is so scary and why it doesn't really affect the hobbits as much, is that it affects how powerful you are and how much your greed or your want to help or all these different things that you're strong at, it amplifies them and then corrupts them, right? That's very clear in the story. That's the goal, right? That's what it kind of happens. So the ring, there's the ring right there. The ring, it corrupts those things. So the fact that Tom Bombadil had the ring with zero issue and gave it back to him with no issue, and clearly made a joke about it, shows one of two things. Either Tom Bombadil doesn't really have any power at all, or he's not affected because he's like part of the world. He's not, even though he's a sentient being, he's not really like, can't be tempted, right? Something like that. Or he just has no want to take over the world or to do anything. And he is just so powerful that the ring just doesn't affect him at all. He has no want or power he doesn't want to help anything. He doesn't want to take over any lands. He just wants to be happy in his forest. So the ring's ability doesn't know how to affect Tom, right? Those are like two different ideas, right? So that I don't think Tom had any special abilities. I think those are the reasons. But he wasn't like, oh, I had the special ability to like levitate, shoot water out of my hands. No like special ability like that, where certain ones of the elves and humans had like foresight and different abilities like that. I think Tom's special ability was encouraging people to an extent, right? That's what I always hope to do here on this channel, is make people happy and enjoy themselves and be encouraging. But maybe that he just, yeah. Is it true that Tom Bombadil was so powerful that even the Dark Lord was afraid of Tom? I've heard a couple people talk about this. I'm curious if Sauron was even aware of Tom Bombadil. I would assume he is from what I remember in the book. But I don't think he was afraid of him. Because I think he knew Tom wouldn't leave his forest. So as long as he didn't mess with him in his forest, And I think at a certain point, if Sauron had taken over the whole world, he probably would have tried to go fight Tom Bombadil in his forest. And I'm pretty sure I gotta go find it later. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if I read this or not, or if it's just in my head. But that it's said that Tolkien or someone said that after the whole world was taken, then Sauron would try to take Tom Bombadil's forest. I think that might be in the Fellowship book, but I don't remember it totally off the top of my head right now. But anyway, we'll keep going with there. Next one, question from Shyla. Since the races of elves men were both children of Iluvatar, why did the race of elves fade away during the Fourth Age? Why couldn't they live in harmony with each other, more or less, and the previous ages? So that's a really good question. Again, Tolkien leaves some stuff up in the air because he wants it to be for our interpretation. The elves know that it was the time for men to kind of like rule Middle Earth. It doesn't mean that the elves were all dead over in Valinor. So all the elves go to Valinor. But they're technically not dead until the end of the world. And then there's kind of like a Revelations kind of story in Middle Earth, which again, it's very different. It's not like a direct. Tolkien didn't like direct parallels with his beliefs on everything. There's like hints at stuff, but not direct parallels. But at the end, then they'll all be going to heaven, right? To an extent. But they go to the halls of Mandos, the elves, kind of to wait either to heaven later, blah blah blah. Where humans technically, I believe, go straight to like heaven, even though Tolkien doesn't really go into that very much. So it's kind of hard. It's like a little guess game going on there. But why didn't they stay together? Well, in theory, the elves of Mirkwood didn't leave. Legolas's people. Now, technically, Legolas did. Legolas left with Gimli. Again, Gimli was the only dwarf we know of in Tolkien's lore that actually went to the Undying Lands. Mind you, do not get confused. The Undying Lands actually doesn't mean you can't die. It's not like heaven on the other continent. It's just, I would assume there's a lot more magical power, and they're all elves, so they're immortal, right? So in theory, Frodo, Bilbo, and Gimli, who are all mortal creatures, not elves, would have passed away. Now, did they live a little bit longer in Valinor? Maybe because of good food or special power or whatever. I don't know. That's up to you. Leave it in your imagination. But I would say yes. But, you know. But really, like, why didn't they work together? It is weird. They could have. I guess the answer is Tolkien didn't write that, right? That's not what Tolkien wanted to do in his story. But again, it doesn't mean that they couldn't have lived in harmony. I mean, technically, they kind of were for thousands of years in all the different ages. Elves and men always worked together. Yes, they fought sometimes too, but they pretty much always worked together and lived in harmony. But why can't they live in harmony with each other more or less like they did during the previous ages? I really think it was that a lot of them felt that it was time, once the ring was destroyed, to go back to Valinor. At least the ones that considered themselves, they were kind of the high elf background, which would be like Rivendell, Lothlorien, those elves. Now, technically, Thranduil's elves were a sect that broke off a long time ago, and I don't think they even ever went to Valinor, because technically the elves came from like the right side of the world and came across like above Mordor. Spread out back in the pre-first age. It's confusing, but let's not go into that too much. But the answer to your question, I can't really give you a straight answer on that, Shayla. I think it really comes down to the from my knowledge, I need to go read some more of these to double check on some things. But I think that it was just time, the elves and the fade away. Okay, so I want to say this one last thing. The elves and the dwarves are told in the comments that they fade away. I think that it doesn't necessarily mean they completely die out. I know that could kind of mean that. You could interpret it that way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that entirely. It could mean they just faded out of the story. Some people would argue that's because Middle-earth is our Earth in the past. I personally, and that's because Tolkien made a comment in one letter that it could be. He didn't say yes or no. He just said it could be to someone who asked that question. Like, oh, we're in the 7th age of Middle-earth or something. I really, personally, really don't like that. I think that it lessens Middle-earth. Just because I feel like we have our history of our world, and Middle-earth is their history, right? And it's not like, maybe you could say it's a different dimension, right? I think it's a different place entirely. And I know some people are like, but the stars are the same. Well, that could just be because it's a fantasy world. Right? So, and if you do remember, C.S. Lewis asks Tolkien, can you get to Middle-earth, his world, from our world to his world through the pools in my story? Because remember, C.S. Lewis has all the pools of all the different universes and worlds and dimensions or whatever. And Tolkien said, yeah, sure, why not? So you can see Tolkien didn't really care directly. He wanted that to be left up in the air. So my thoughts are dwarves and elves and hobbits lived way into the 4th age of Middle-earth. However long that it is, thousands of years. Tolkien doesn't really give us a date ending on the 4th age. But I think what really comes down to is there's so many humans. The humans kind of take over the main story. They're like the main people in Middle-earth. The dwarves are very happily taken back over their mountain homes, and they live in there. Maybe they still hang out with some of the humans that know them, but they kind of just stay to themselves. And because their populations are a lot lower now, it doesn't necessarily mean they die out, but could mean that. But same thing with the elves. There were probably some elves left in Middle-earth, but I think most of them went to Valinor, which doesn't mean they died, but Of course, in the end, they would all be, technically LOTR has given them all souls, so they would all be in the afterlife, right? As so be is said. But that's going a little deep on that subject. Why were Galadriel and Gandalf so close? Did they form a bond? They were just really good friends. They know each other a really long time. I don't think there was necessarily... So, I think that Gandalf and Galadriel in Peter Jackson's movies do a decent job of this, showing that it's more of a really good friendship. It's not like Gandalf loves her or something in a that sense, a romantic sense. I don't think that ever was the case. I think it's more that they are really close friends, and they will do anything to help each other. You know what I mean? Like, so one doesn't die kind of thing. I feel like that. I'm going to try to rapid fire some of these questions here to finish up this video so we're not going too long. How much was the Witch King of Angmar able to break Gandalf's white staff? Was he more powerful than Gandalf the White? So that was in the extended edition of the Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, that he did that. I'm trying to remember if he did that in the books. I don't feel like he did. I think that was added from the movie, which some people didn't like, and I think that's why Peter Jackson might have taken that out of the normal cut. Okay, so here's how I feel on that. The power ranking in characters in Middle-earth is very interesting. It's very different. It's not at all the same as other world-building worlds like Warhammer 40K, which also kind of have a crazy power ranking system, or just anything, right? It's not super clear like who's the most powerful, right? Besides Iluvatar, the one god, right? But like technically Gandalf and Sauron are the same spiritual creature, but clearly Sauron is more powerful than Gandalf. But Gandalf isn't no weakling, right? Gandalf could maybe hold his own, but clearly Sauron is very, very scary, very ancient, right? Even though technically they're probably about the same age. I'm not quite sure how that works because they were all created at the same time. The spiritual creatures, from what I know, the Maiar. But like, so the Witch King is basically granted power by Sauron. He is one of his biggest servants. So, and you have to remember the Witch King has been around a long time. A long time. He is also very evil and very powerful. So in theory, I think Gandalf would be like... It's hard to measure the power levels. I think Gandalf would be more powerful in theory than the Witch King, but is overall overwhelming just attack force. I think that the Witch King is really scary. He's up there, right? He might be able to beat Gandalf. It would be really close, right? In an attack. But again, I don't remember that really happened in the books. So I think really it comes down to is the Witch King is kind of a monster. So he's really strong. So it's not unplausible that he couldn't have knocked Gandalf off broke his staff. But it might be a little overboard. I don't know if Gandalf was that much weaker than him. So I think that's a movie thing. What are you looking forward to most in the upcoming film, The Hunt for Gollum? Robert says. Seeing the different locations. It'd be fun to see Thranduil's halls again. I'm kind of hoping they'll use similar assets to the Hobbit movies. Because Gollum gets captured by the elves. Remember, and I'd like to see the connection that Legolas is actually going to the Council of Elrond to tell them they lost Gollum. Be a nice ending to the story. Kind of connect it to the Lord of the Rings movies. Because it is connected. I really want to see Aragorn and Gandalf. And I don't know if they're going to use Viggo Mortensen. It would be really cool. I know he'd be a little old now to play it, but man, come on. Just give him like a little bit of a makeup job. He'll be good. That guy's awesome. I really wish. I hope they use the same guy. If they don't, I understand why, but we'll see. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. The actual hunt. I hope that it's actually like a long story of him hunting. There's a fan film, by the way, that from the Hunt for Gollum from like 10 years ago. It's really cool. I put it in our Discord. How much influence do you think the Valar and Eru had over the events in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings? Was it divine intervention at times or just fate? Doran the First asks this on our Discord. It's a lot more. So they help. Clearly, they're guiding things. So it's kind of hard without going into like, you know, views in real life for me. But there's kind of like two different things from a biblical standpoint. I'll just say this, that from our world, from my views, is there's providence, which is basically God is fully sovereign in control of everything that's happening, right? And then there's like miracles, which are like a divine intervention, like someone's falling and stops falling midair and then hits the ground, kind of thing, right? Something like that, right? That would be like from a real world perspective, which doesn't happen that often, right? I do know some things, but let's go back into fantasy for a second. Yes, Eru and Iluvatar, Eru Iluvatar actually gives dreams to Boromir and Faramir to go to Rivendell. That's why they're there, right? In the original lore, they're not summoned like they show in the movie by Elrond. They're there by chance, but it's not chance. It was Iluvatar. So there was absolutely intervention or a miracle level thing that Iluvatar did with some things, but the majority of the time it was just providence, which would be like fate, I guess, in the fantasy world of what you're putting here, where it's something like that happened because it was like partly that was just going to happen, and partly, you know, God was willing it, right? To an extent, it's kind of hard. That's a really deep conversation. It's a really good question. Yes, he definitely intervened a few times, but was the rest fate that he would defeat the evil? Yeah, that's kind of what Tolkien. It is. You kind of answer your own question. Was it divine intervention at times or just fate? I think it was a little of both. Is I think the answer to your question. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. All right. Legend has it there were several ways to destroy the One Ring. I don't think there were any other alternatives to destroy the ring. They tried to think of some, but they weren't like plausible. They knew that the way Sauron made it, you really had to destroy it in Mount Doom. Now, why was that? Was it a magical thing? I think so. I think it was a magical thing. You could say, oh, well, that lava was hotter than other places. I'm sure there were other volcanoes in Middle-earth somewhere in the north. So I don't think it was because you just needed a volcano. I think it has something to do with, from what Tolkien says. And I mean, Tolkien probably the one to joke and say, because it would have made a dumb story, right, if I used some other way. That's why he did give reasons why they didn't use the eagles. But I remember one person asked him, why did you not just use the eagles to get him there? And he goes, because that would have been stupid. He doesn't say that exactly, but he implies that to him. Like, that would be a dumb story. It's like, yeah, that's a good argument. You wouldn't have the entire Lord of the Rings books. But there's obviously some reasons why the eagles didn't want to be interacting with the humans very much. The only reason they came right at the very end was, back to the other question, I'm pretty sure Iluvatar kind of, or maybe Manwë kind of bumped the eagles into going and helping Gandalf. Because they're like, okay, so this is like the end. If they lose this fight, they lose Middle-earth, and the evil wins. So, Eagles, you need to get involved. I think that's kind of what happened there at the very end. Eagles probably like, ugh, fine. Which I'm sure, I bet you some of the Eagles died. So, they don't really like to be around the other races, from what I know. I'm sure there were humans that didn't know who they were shooting stuff at them, too. Not in that battle, but like in previous years. So, in the Troll Cave, Gandalf said to Bilbo, the blade of elvish make. It was blue, and orcs nearby. Glamdring and Orcrest were also elven make, so why didn't those glow blue as well? That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think it had to do with whoever created it, they had that kind of imbued metal magical spell. That's my guess of why that is. You know, Sting was not meant to be a sword. It is for a hobbit, but it's supposed to be a dagger. So maybe they made this dagger so that, you know, you could check and say, oh gosh, there's orcs nearby, and then get your big sword out, right? More like a checking dagger. You know what I'm saying? That would make sense to me. You guys leave your comments. What do you guys think about that question? Randor said a question. What would have happened if Faramir had come instead of Boromir to join the Fellowship of the Ring? That's everyone's guess, isn't it? I could make a whole story. I could make a whole video about that just for fun. That'd be kind of fun. What if? I feel like a couple of the content creators have done that already, but maybe I'll make my version. What would happen if Faramir had come instead of Boromir? I mean, Okay, here's a couple things. If Boromir hadn't been there, I think possibly Merry and Pippin would have died. I don't think Faramir was a very good fighter too, but he, in the books, it is hinted at that Boromir was kind of the master warrior. Faramir was a good balance between being a very wise and stewardess person and being a good fighter. But Boromir was like he was the master class warrior. Like that was kind of hinted at in the books. So maybe if it had been Faramir, the two hobbits would have died. That would have been pretty bad in the story because who does Pippin save later? Gandalf. And then Gandalf would have died in Minas Tirith. And I think that happens in the book. I know they show that in the movie. Maybe if it's just a movie thing, that wouldn't matter. But let's say from the movie perspective, Pippin saves him, right? I think it does happen in the book from what I remember. Yeah, there's a so if Boromir hadn't been there, also Frodo and Sam probably wouldn't have split from the Fellowship, which ended up being important because Gollum came out, who ends up being the one that drops the ring in the fire instead of Frodo and Sam. You see how that could spiral real quick in the storytelling? I'm going to use what I just said. Copyright. Just kidding. But I'm going to use what I just said, and I'm going to make a little lore video about that, I think. We're going to talk about that. The what ifs. What if this happened? Because you can think about how that would spiral real quickly. Now, let's say, what if Faramir did save the hobbits and died in the process, just like Boromir? Then Faramir would have not married Éowyn. He would have not been the steward under Aragorn to help him. And what problems would have that caused? Now, you could say Boromir would have been there, but it's kind of weird to just say Boromir would have married Éowyn. Probably not. They're very different people. She probably wouldn't have wanted to marry him. Very different people, right? Yeah, that's a good question. That'd be a fun video. Do you enjoy Middle-earth board and or tabletop RPG games, and which ones do you play? Thunderstrike asks. I like those a lot, yes. I actually have a lot of the miniatures from the Warhammer shop that I want to do some more painting of some of them, maybe here on the channel with you guys sometime, so I will let you know. Is my camera still focusing? Yeah, we're good. And then I really have an old Risk game that I really loved. That was an old huge Risk board, which I don't know if I've showed you guys, but it's pretty cool. And then I do play a little bit of Magic, the Lord of the Rings. Just Magic, because my one brother-in-law really loves to play it, and I've played with him, and he bought me one of the sets, and I really do like the Lord of the Rings sets. They're fun. All right. And then the North, Alex says, gosh, I wish I could play tabletop RPGs again. Maribad Middle-earth Gamers Kid. Is this a question, or is he just... I don't think that's directly a question. Moving on. He was just saying that to someone else. In response. In the upcoming film, The Hunt for Gollum, do you think we will see Saruman? If so, I'm assuming it'll be CGI. Maybe. I don't... So that's I have a weird thing about that with feeling. Should it be CGI, or should it just be a new actor that kind of looks like the original? I almost tend to feel like it should just be a new actor. Because, like, as much as CGI can be used for good, and it's a tool, I think that also gets overused. And of course, AI, which is basically just fast computing using CGI and other input, right? AI is not actually an artificial intelligence, just throwing that out there. It kind of drives me crazy, actually, that got started getting so used in the last 5 or 6 years, because it sounded cool is why they used it. They're like, we're doing AI. Well, what they're really doing is they put all their fast computing together that pulls information from everywhere. AI would be a standalone artificial intelligence, meaning it could have its own thinking and processing by itself. It wouldn't need tons of information from everywhere to make itself be able to think by independently. And it can't. No AI can think independently. It's all code, and things have been programmed to pull together quickly. And it makes it almost feel alive because it can do stuff so fast that it's like, wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. It's a tool. But it's not really like AI as we thought of 15, 20 years ago with like Cortana from Halo or Data from Star Trek. Those are totally different That is like, those, when I think AI, I think of them. They're like an actual physically conscious creature, independent of everything else. They can make their own decisions. They don't have to have inputs from code. They can make their own code, pretty much, their own thoughts and brain. That's AI to me. But I understand what it's used for today, so I follow what Robert's saying. But yeah, CGI, I think that probably a new actor would probably be the best. If it's a quick thing, I thought it was neat that we got to see a little bit of him in the Moria anime. Sorry, not Moria. The Rohan anime. That was pretty cool. I actually really liked that anime movie. I thought it was really good. Some people didn't. I understand. But I thought overall it was pretty darn good. But yeah, I mean, it'd be, if they used a CGI version of him, I would hope it'd be really, really good. Because it's pretty obvious when they use it, and it's not good. So, who knows? I think that probably they get a new actor. Knowing Peter Jackson, he'd probably get a different actor. That's my guess, but who knows? Unrealistic Engine says, it would be awesome if they transform The Hunt for Gollum into a series. Yeah. I mean, I thought they were going to make it into 2 movies. I don't think they need to stretch it into 3, but it'd be cool if it was 2. I tend to be, some people argue that The Hobbit shouldn't have had 3 movies. I tend to be the kind of guy that's like, I want as much content as I can get from the series, and if some of it is like then we just skip that little part and enjoy the rest. But like for me, The Hobbit was, besides the love triangle and besides some of the CGI being a little rough, like it was really good. The actors were good, the music was good, the storytelling was good. Azog was a little much at times, even though he was cool, but again, CGI. Yeah. Why did Tolkien name Sauron and Saruman so similar? I used to always get them mixed up for this reason. Robert asks. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows that. I think that Tolkien answered that in a letter once, but I don't know. I think he just liked. I think he thought that Saruman, that sour, I think it's probably a language thing, and I bet it means something evil. That's my guess. The S name. That's about the best I can give you. Okay, well, guys. Anyway, there is my fireside chat here for the end of October. Again, I don't plan on doing this one every single month, and I won't go into. I will always normally this end part where I answered questions. This is normally what I'll do in this, or I'll just give you, or the beginning where I just give you little updates. That middle chunk, that was just my normal talk stuff about giving you guys some of my thoughts on stuff for the channel. So anyway, stay happy, my friends. Thank you so much for your support. Again, the hero of Khazad-dûm, Martin, and Zollin's company, Elrandor, Reb, being a royal god, and all my other Patreons. I do this full time, so I appreciate that. And really, thank you for supporting me even through the ups and downs. If I'm sick and I'm not making as many videos, just know I'm not going anywhere. And stay happy, guys. Lord of the Rings content. Baruch Khazad Kuzari menu. So many cool expansions coming. Return to Moria. Lord of the Rings Online. Very exciting. So anyway, until then, I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy, and I'm at your service and your families. See you soon.